Hello, dear friends. We've looked at all sorts of cars, strange ones, never released ones, and homemade ones. We remembered something we haven't talked about: safe cars. After all, the safety of our loved ones is very important, especially in vehicles capable of reaching high speeds. Today we will review the safest cars of recent years and find out if cars are truly becoming safer. And those who watch this video until the end will learn which seat in a car is the safest. Buckle up and let's go! You've probably seen footage from crash tests. That's where special mannequins with sensors tracking the impact force are placed in cars. Then the mannequin faces 4 scenarios: frontal collision, side or rear collision, and a pedestrian incident. In each case, the safety agency assigns ratings based on the severity of injuries sustained by the mannequin. Special attention is given to head, spinal, and neck injuries. If a car fails to pass the crash test, at least at a satisfactory level, it is taken off the market. If you've lived long enough and remember cars from the 80s and 90s, you're probably aware of the stark differences in seatbelts back then and now, not to mention the safety airbags. For those of you who didn't witness or don't remember, let's list the mandatory safety measures for passengers and drivers. Seatbelts. The tighter they hold the person in the seat, the better. This helps prevent injuries from impact with the dashboard, seats, ceiling, or doors. It also creates more space for airbags to deploy. By the way, the first familiar seatbelt, a 2-point belt fastened at the waist, was invented in 1909, while the 3-point belt, extending from the shoulder to the waist, was invented by Swedes almost 50 years later. By the 60s and 70s, many countries made it mandatory for car manufacturers to install seatbelts in front seats. Airbags are now a mandatory component of the basic safety system, but it also took almost 70 years from the first patents in the early 20th century to their widespread use, at least for the driver's seat in the 90s. Nowadays, they are present for passengers as well, including side airbags, significantly reducing the complexity of injuries in side collisions. Even something similarly simple like headrests protects people from neck fractures during severe collisions. And as for how engineers designing the car frame and body pay attention to test results, we won't go into detail. In reality, there are so many nuances involved that a separate video could be dedicated to it. After all, the frame must withstand a certain level of deformation, and the engine must always move downward in a frontal collision, never into the passenger compartment. But all of that was in many cars by the end of the 20th century. Modern models, on the other hand, are equipped with night vision systems, electronic stability control systems that help drivers maintain control of the vehicle, and anti-lock braking systems that allow for steering control even during emergency braking, when the wheels may be locked due to sudden brake application. And as you probably already understood, all the participants in today's video have everything from the list and even more. For example, Subaru Forester has an engine with a lowered center of gravity, so that in the event of a frontal collision, it moves downward rather than into the cabin and passengers. Various systems for stabilizing the crossover's control, ensuring a short braking distance, and maintaining road grip, make the car safe not only for passengers and drivers, but also for pedestrians. The electronics as well as the body design, especially the front part, were developed to minimize damage. Audi Q5 has consistently received high safety ratings for drivers and passengers from Euro NCAP since 2008. It has also been awarded the title of the safest choice by IIHS. Audi Q5 is considered the first car model to receive this title for 5 consecutive years. Researchers have noted the special design of the front bumper, which minimizes damage to other road users, whether they are passengers or other vehicles. The base configuration of the car includes automatic reminders to fasten seatbelts, because without them, the airbags won't deploy in an emergency situation. There are also special curtains inside the cabin that protect passengers from shards, and various intelligent systems to assist drivers on the road or during parking. Now it's time to debunk a very common myth. Are Volvo cars the safest in the world? Let's see. Indeed, much of what constitutes the passive and active safety systems of any decent car is created in Sweden, whether it's the 3-point seatbelt, dual-stage airbags, or collision warning and brake support function. Indeed, 5 Volvo models have received very high safety ratings and the title of the most reliable. Among European luxury brands, Volvo is the only company with such a high number of these titles according to the IHS report. And when it comes to the Volvo XC60, it not only received 5 stars from the Euro NCAP, but also became the safest in its class. All thanks to the innovative city safety system, which includes various functional means to control the vehicle's behavior on the road. The base features for this model include lane departure warnings, rollover prevention, automatic braking and warning of potential collisions, blind spot warnings, assistance during parallel parking, and driver fatigue monitoring. And that's not all. The designers have also worked hard to strengthen the reinforcement ribs in the doors and the overall body structure of the Volvo XC60. It is equipped with numerous airbags, including one on the hood, designed to soften the impact on a pedestrian's head in the event of an accident. Overall, all of this sounds like a very safe car indeed. However, it's important to remember that not all Volvo models come equipped with such features. For example, Renault is likely ready to dispute the title of the safest car. For a long time, almost the entire Renault lineup was highly regarded by Euro NCAP as very reliable. And it's no wonder. In Renault's laboratories, 2 cars collide with walls or other obstacles every week. 2 per week, that's over 100 cars in a year. To compare, in a similar safety center at Volvo, the average number is 1 car per day. More than 300 well-built Volvo cars are disposed of each year to improve safety systems. In general, Volvo is not the safest car in the universe, but it is certainly one of the most reliable brands constantly working on improvements. And since we're on the topic of crash tests again, it's time to talk about the crash test dummies that directly participate in them. It turned out that since the first cars were sold to the first casualties in accidents, not much time has passed. The first fatal accident involving a car occurred in 1869 with Mary Ward. Due to the design characteristics, such as a metal instrument panel, passengers suffered severe injuries often incompatible with life. However, the first attempts to investigate the possible injuries to passengers only began in the 1930s. These tests were conducted in a way that is not familiar to us. Initially, they were performed on cadavers. During that period, fundamental knowledge was gained about human injuries sustained during various road incidents, which saved many lives. But ultimately, no 2 bodies are the same, and the purity of experiments was questioned. Ethical issues constantly arose as well. For example, it was simply impossible to use child bodies. Female bodies were rarely available to researchers, creating bias in the data obtained towards elderly males. Some researchers took risks and used volunteers, while others used animals. But even that was deemed unethical, and eventually the decision was made to use crash test dummies. However, even here it wasn't that simple. Despite constant improvements in tracking various injuries, the dummies still represented an average-sized male, creating another bias in the data obtained. Over time, car manufacturers diversified their range of dummies and started conducting crash tests, for example using dummies with obesity. They discovered that contrary to popular belief, fat doesn't protect a person from injuries. In fact, injuries to the lower limbs are more severe. With child and female dummies, it's still more challenging, since manufacturers have long used simply a scaled-down version of the male dummy. Only recently have researchers realized that anthropometry of such dummies does not reflect real physiology, and they plan to rectify this shortcoming. So in the next 10 years, cars will only become safer. This assumption is supported by the Hyundai Santa Fe. In addition to the already standard adaptive cruise control and various artificial intelligence systems, this model has a very unique feature. Inside the Santa Fe's cabin, there are motion sensors that activate when the car is locked. This system was developed specifically to reduce child mortality statistics in vehicles. But the innovations in the Santa Fe are not limited to electronics. Hyundai has also updated the body. They added hot stamping elements, which increased its strength by 2.5 times. But what about smaller cars? Without false modesty, one of the safest cars is undoubtedly Mercedes. In the A-Class models, the driver is assisted by the best artificial intelligence systems, including assistance in maintaining a safe distance, a 360-degree parking camera view, and they didn't forget about pedestrians either. Special sensors are activated in the hood in the event of a dangerous approach, causing the hood to lift. This helps protect pedestrians from serious injuries. In the S-Class models, in addition to common safety features, there is intelligent headlight control. that adjusts the light intensity based on weather conditions. And of course, driver fatigue monitoring is present. And of course, we won't limit ourselves to just one Mercedes. Subaru Ascent, Toyota Camry, Honda Accord, they all have various systems aimed at protecting passengers and drivers. Lane departure warning, driver fatigue recognition system, warning of distance violation and detection of obstacles on the road. And all of this is purely about electronics. Of course, engineers and designers have also worked on each of them to make the body and doors stronger, to fit as many airbags as possible, not only on the side or front. Often modern models have their own airbags for passengers, occupying the rear seats of the car. Have you heard the opinion that modern cars are made of plastic while old ones were made of real metal and were stronger? It is actually quite common. So much so that the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration in the USA was forced to publish statistics on fatal accidents. These usually occur at high speeds. And it was found that speeding in a car made before 1984 led to a risk of fatal outcome in 55% of cases. But if the same thing was done in a 2017 car, the risk of death in the event of an accident was reduced by almost half to 26%. It is safe to conclude that the automotive industry is evolving not only in terms of power and speed, but also towards preserving life. We can also compare and pay attention to the safety systems of cars from the 90s. For example, in the BMW 5 Series E34, there were only 2 airbags, for the driver and in front of the passenger seat. Yes, there was a system that checked if the seatbelt was fastened. And of course there were headrests. Side airbags were only available for certain models as an additional feature. In the instructions for the Mercedes-Benz W124, it is explicitly mentioned that a child seat must be used if the child is below 150 centimeters, because the seat belts cannot securely hold them. And reliable fixation helps when the built-in airbags in the dashboard and, this time, in the doors are deployed. You understand, right? Over these 30 years, the focus was not only on improving seatbelt mechanisms or airbags. Developers have made a huge leap in increasing the reliability of car control itself, so that the airbags don't have to deploy at all. Who knows what the future holds? We eagerly await the advancement of technology in the automotive industry. But for now, cars are safe at a modest 97% rather than 100%. Let's discuss what place in a car can be considered the safest. For example, have you heard that the passenger seat next to the driver is referred to as the suicide seat? Or are you one of those who believe it's the safest? Both opinions have their basis. The first comes from a time when vehicle safety was very poor, and the passenger in that seat would sustain serious injuries in both frontal and side collisions. The second opinion is more modern, as the passenger seat has been equipped with an airbag for the past few decades. Nevertheless, despite the improved safety situation, if you're looking for the safest spot in the car, that's not it, especially if the impact occurs on the right side during an accident. For the same reason, the second row seat behind the passenger seat is not the best option, although historically it is often occupied by diplomats, officials and businessmen. Additionally, in a frontal collision, contact with the passenger seat can lead to serious fractures. The seat behind the driver has its advantages because the driver often tries to swerve left to avoid the collision in emergency situations. So, provided that the driver reacts quickly and steers away, the passenger in that seat may escape with mild fright, but such occurrences are rare. And finally, the answer to the question about the safest spot in the car, for those who watch the video until the end. Whether you're looking for it for yourself or to place a child seat, it is the middle seat in the second row. The absence of a seat in front of it is likely to protect the passenger from leg fractures. In a side collision, the deformation of the body may not reach that spot. In a rear impact, these seats are protected either by the trunk or another row of seats. That's the overview we've come up with, and we hope you've learned something new. Perhaps you've even found your dream car. If not, check out our channel. There are several videos about cars, and maybe you'll find your dream there. And now we're off to make new videos.